What better time with the snow this high to talk about opening up the pool? Yeah, we haven't forgotten. The new chairperson of the commission to study the Davelopes Pool and broader issues regarding swimming and recreation in the city of Providence is my guest tonight. And that's part of the commitment we have on this broadcast, to make sure that the politicians who say thumbs up, we haven't done well for our kids, stay on it. So we shall stay on it. It's great to have you. By the way, I didn't put it in my rundown a lot, but did you see the PC game last night? Nikki, did you see the PC game? Did you see that when that kid threw in a bomb from 75 feet and woo! It looks like PC might actually make the show. One more win against Creighton. Creighton they have left, right? I think they have Creighton left, and they may have nailed it. They may have nailed it last night against Marquette, so good for them. URI with its senior night tonight, last night for them. Big things for next year, no doubt. All right, let's get into the rundown because we got lots to do. So he says. He's kind of putting himself in a tough position here. Somebody said to me today, Merth York? I haven't heard about her in a long time. Yeah, so, this is weird. This continuing conversation of how to cover women in politics. I have a thought on that. What else do we have here this evening for you? I'm not sure of what the assertion. I have an assertion, and I'm not sure the assertion is provable. I'll explain. Ha! Ha! Oh, if in my house, ho, ho! And yes, this is the beginning of Lent. All right, let's get into it. Lots to do before we get to our guest segment this evening. So he says, well, here's the latest when it comes to the Ukrainian semi-crisis, I guess, from Fox News. After the headline, there it is from CBS News, and here's Fox News story.
Secretary of State John Kerry meeting with his British and Ukrainian counterparts. The discussion focusing on tensions between Moscow and Kiev as the leaders hope the two countries can solve their differences diplomatically.
I think it's very important they are in direct communication at ministerial level, at a senior level, to, first of all, to avoid miscalculation and misunderstandings.
Secretary Kerry also sitting down with the Russian foreign minister while in Paris. Sergei Lavrov denying Russian troops have taken over the Crimean Peninsula while speaking in Spain before traveling to France.
Regarding the self-defense forces created by the people of Crimea, we do not have any power over them. They do not listen to our orders.
The meeting coming as the European Union announces a $15 billion bailout for Ukraine.
It is a package designed to assist a committed, inclusive and reforms-oriented Ukrainian government.
The aid is the same amount Russia offered to then Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych in a deal which led to deadly protests and the collapse of his regime. The U.S. proposing a $1 billion aid package for Kiev Tuesday. Ukraine's finance ministry says the country needs $35 billion in loans to cover costs for this year and next.
It's a time for all of us to stand with the Ukrainian people in support of their territorial integrity and their sovereignty.
NATO also discussing the tensions with Russia at a meeting in Brussels. In Kiev, Amy Kellogg, Fox News.
You know, I really haven't sensed a groundswell of interest in this, in our own backyard, but if the Russian presence gets any more prominent, I'm sure it's going to catch fire. And when we start talking about these kinds of aid packages, that's a lot of dough. But the one thing that I thought was interesting is when the Russian foreign minister said that, these self-defense troops in the Crimean Peninsula, they don't listen to our orders. That must mean you're giving them. So I wouldn't trust Russia to throw them in this particular situation. Stay tuned. Next item. Out of nowhere, Merth York. Well, she ran for governor 3 times and never nailed it down. Here's the WPR.com headline today. It was this afternoon that Merth York showed up at a restaurant. I've got the name of it here. It's on the east side. I understand it's very nice. It's called the Rue de la Soirée. Rue de la Soirée. East side, very French. Owned by women, I'm told, which is a great thing because this is kind of a gal thing today. Look, Merth York listen, she ran for governor 3 times. That makes her prominent. And I don't call her a 3-time loser like a lot of people do. It takes courage and tenacity to run for office. No doubt about that. But there's something going on here. She was the chairperson for Angel Tavares' run for mayor. and now Angel's running for governor, and she bails. So either there's, some kind of, Gina just lured her in because Gina's taken a hard dive to the left in this primary, the likes of which I've never seen before. Maybe Merth's looking for a cabinet position or something, and she's, trading a little bit of influence. Or maybe this is all about breaking the glass ceiling. She has told this crowd today that it's really not about Gina being a woman, sort of. Here's audio from WPRO News.
I am not supporting Gina because she's a woman. That is not the reason. I believe that she has the skills, the talent, the determination, the drive, the smarts to be a fabulous governor and lead this state forward. I know she can do it. I do have to say, I am in fact delighted that the candidate I support is a woman. And I clearly would love to see a woman governor in Rhode Island.
If it's not about Gina being a woman, then why do you have to throw that in? The mixed messages are hard to follow. It really is. And it lends all toward the difficulty in following a race with a prominent female candidate, as was discussed at an event, I guess, yesterday. The media had a little bit of a get-together themselves. Next item. This is discussing the bias when it comes to following gender politics. The headline in the Journal today read, "Sexist coverage costs both sides." I guess the research that this expert brought to the media for discussion is that when female candidates are targeted for their dress and for their hair and stuff like that, they suffer. But so too do the men that run against them. I'm not sure what the end result of all that is. But it does bring up a difficult conversation for people like me and others who try to see things for their net worth but get all clouded up, especially when the likes of Gina Raimondo tweets out about her meatloaf recipe like she's been doing, trying to, hit to all fields and, be the decision maker and also be the Susie Homemaker. And if you call her a Susie Homemaker, all of a sudden you got gender bias. It's hard. It's not easy for everybody. It's not just hard for the women. That's my point. All right, let's move on here. I don't see the proof. Here's where I want to go with this real quick. So yesterday we had this Providence Journal story where we lamented the low poll opinion of leadership in this state, right? This is the Hassenfeld Institute for Public Leadership, and here's just one of the graphics that we used. Gary Satz, by the way, who heads up this effort, is going to join us Monday. This is how bad people feel about leadership, from our state officials. 82% favor poor, 43% of them just plain old poor. They can't solve a problem. Nobody thinks they're doing the job, right? So today, my friend Dan McKee, he's running for lieutenant governor. He's my mayor. He's been here before a time or two. Put out via his campaign an email referencing this story. And he says in an email, it's a money-grabbing email, he says the following. He says, Rhode Islanders are clearly looking for a new style of leadership to help get our economy moving again. People are tired of politics as usual and want someone who can bring fresh ideas to the table and get things done. You know what? I think that's assumptive. While there's no doubt that we're like boo, boo, boo about the state and boo, boo, boo about leadership, I see no, hey, let's go get some new leaders out of the constituency. We'll see, but there's been a lot of complaining for a long time, and I haven't seen any kind of real renaissance via the ballot box, which is where the proof really is. We'll see if Dan's right. I'm not so sure about that. Moving out of state to South Rhode Island. I call Rhode Island North Jersey and New Jersey South Rhode Island because I grew up in one and live in another and do the same place. And this girl's a pip. She went to Morris Catholic High School, which was a rival of mine. I went to DePaul High School in Wayne. Here's the headline. Student's lawsuit against parents for support loses first round in court. Thank God! Thank God! Here's a little bit of TV video from this courtroom. This 18-year-old, she left the house. She didn't like the discipline. She's an honor student. She's one of these smart, bratty kids. And so she moves out, more or less tells her parents to go, moves to a friend's house. And the friend's parents, I guess, are involved instrumentally in getting the lawyer that sued these two parents who are sitting there like, what? As this one, doesn't she look like she's just doesn't she have kind of a look? Kind of like, I'll leave it there. She's a little attitude problem. She's suing her parents for the balance of tuition that they haven't paid the high school since she left. She's suing her parents for the tuition money that they put aside for her college education and about $600 a week so she can get by. Thankfully, the judge started this thing by saying, sweetheart, A, you got to clean up your potty mouth, and B, no evidence that there's a problem here with Mommy and Daddy other than them trying to discipline you. The problem seems to be with you, and unless you come back with something good in court, get your act together. Thank God, because if a judge went the other way, every 18-year-old in the world who thinks the world is owed to them, and they're all thinking the world is owed to them, would be suing all of us, baby boomers, who somehow have screwed up with these kids. I could go on, but I'm out of time on that. And lastly, what do we got? Ash Wednesday. Interesting at Mass this morning. I went to a different parish and got Ash Wednesday message. For those of you trying to figure out how to handle Lent, the pastor offered the 111 plan. Yeah, 111, I wrote it down. Change one thing in these 40 days about your behavior. Do one thing that you haven't done that you should be doing, and give one thing that you love up. The 111 Lenten plan. Try it. I'm gonna. All right, let's figure out this whole Davelopes Pool thing, and the whole plan to help inner city kids when we come back to it.
This is destruction of public property if you even think about it. Pouring cement in a pool. It's absurd. Inner city, poor kids ought to come first in anybody's budget. Anybody's budget. Those who have the least, government should do the most for, and the rest of us should take care of ourselves.
You know, there might be a little bit of liberal philosophy that you may or may not be comfortable with there, but when it comes to inner city kids and the double standards that we have for treating them in the poor way that we treat them, there's a lot of truth to be told there. Here's a headline that results from Ray Rickman's appearance here back in September. The council president proposes panel to study Providence Pool as Mayor Tavares accepts. That's back from October. Remember in the fall, we put the heat on the administration real big here for what nonsense was going on with the plan to cement the Davelopes Pool. It's one thing to have no money and, you know, take a break and rework it. It's another thing to cement the thing. And the new chairperson of this panel has been kind enough to come here. Deborah, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You got a chewing gum company?
Yeah, that has nothing to do
No,
with...
it's got nothing to do with this. But what do you do for a living?
I have a small company called Verve Incorporated. We make Glee all-natural chewing gum.
Wow.
Sold at Whole Foods and places like that.
That's kind of cool. But you've been involved as a volunteer. You're on the library board, and there's another project in town that you're working with.
The Southside Community Land Trust.
Doing what?
What does that organization do? Urban community gardens and urban environmental education and that kind of thing in South Providence.
How did you get hooked into chairing this commission?
I live about 100 yards from the Davelopes Pool. I've lived there over 30 years, and so when the pool was threatened in the beginning of July, that they said they were going to close the pool and put in a splash park, I was one of the neighbors who was involved, and I got in touch with the mayor's office because I knew some of the people there, and you know, it just didn't make any sense at all. So when the commission was created, I was asked to be one of the representatives from our ward. So Casby Harrison, who's a lawyer in Ward 11, and I represent the neighborhood effectively.
All right, so I'm guessing that you come in, well, obviously you do come in with a perspective since you live there. Rather than me feeding into this argument first, tell me what your perspective on this whole thing has been with the empty pool and then the threat or the potential for cementing the pool and now the outcry and the commission study. Tell me what your perspective is.
Well, I think it's not just that I'm a neighbor. I think all of us as citizens honestly should be concerned about recreational opportunities for kids in the city in general, and in particular for kids who don't have a whole lot of other opportunities in the summer. So I happen to be a swimmer too, so I'm sympathetic, but I just think my personal feeling is that we should take a holistic look at the situation in terms of all of the swimming pools, swim instruction in general, which is very scanty, right. And I think this commission gives us the opportunity to be comprehensive as opposed to just impulsive.
Good. I think that's terrific. I mean, the one philosophy that I bring to the table here as a former lifeguard, swimmer myself, my kid swims, is that, you know what, we have just a nonchalant disposition about city kids, that it's okay to spray them in the crotch with a little bit of water, and that's going to satisfy them when it's 98 degrees. And then we wonder why gangs are formed, and we wonder why kids misbehave, and we wonder why, trouble in the urban environment. So we treat them like crap, you get crap back. That was my thought on this whole thing, and the politics of this got crazy, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that it wasn't really announced to the public that the pool was even going to close until it was about to open. So I think it was the weekend before July 4th. I might have my dates wrong. It doesn't that's not the time to make a decision like that.
Last minute stuff.
Yeah, and if you remember the summer around that time, it was over 90 degrees. And kids were looking forward to swimming. There are other things that have changed a lot in terms of swimming. I remember when we first moved to South Providence, there were so many kids in the pools you couldn't, hardly had elbow room. And then in 2010, a child drowned at the Buckland pool. And so the rules for attending the pools changed completely.
Hold your thought, because that is the one policy bugaboo that drives me crazy. It's a self-defeating policy. And we'll talk to Deborah about that, see what she thinks, and talk about where the process will be. Because sooner or later, Virginia, it will be warm. Stay with us.
And we need to have programs for the kids. If we have the pools and they're open, we need to utilize them more. We need to have swim programs for the children.
Do I have your commitment, no matter what comes out here, that come April 1, you're going to look for a solution that keeps that pool and other facilities open or constructed to change the complexion of this conversation?
Absolutely. You have my word on that, Dan.
All right. So, there's one of the lead candidates for mayor, right? The City Council President, Michael Solomon. Deborah Schimberger is with me. She's chairing this commission. Do you have an April 1 deadline to put a report out?
Absolutely. Our goal is to be done by the end of March.
You've had one big meeting, right?
Actually, two. Our second meeting was Tuesday night. We'll be meeting again next week.
We were talking about, and I think you've got a good grip on it, not only being a resident, but the idea that after the tragedy happened at one of the local pools a handful of years ago, they got neurotic to the point where they got counterproductive. The idea that kids can't be at the pool unattended by a custodial parent in the urban neighborhoods, Tavares says, the mayor says, well, the pools aren't being used that much. Well, you've got rules that restrict the kids from using them.
Exactly.
It used to be that a kid could go by a city pool, and their parents who were working, and we want them to be working, right, not on the dole, would trust that they were at the pool. How dumb is that? I hope your commission will fix that we can't be so neurotic about an accident. Provide the safety, provide the resources, and let the kids walk up and enjoy a summer pool. Yes?
Well, I think that what's interesting is when you look at other cities, there have sometimes, unfortunately, been terrible tragedies. Similar kind of population, similar situation, and cities have reacted in exactly the opposite way. Instead of saying to a kid who can't read, okay, so you can't come to school, right? We're saying to a kid who can't swim, you can't come in the pool. Instead of reacting that way, some cities have said, whoa, what we really need is renewed commitment to make sure that every kid is safe and that every kid learns to swim. And I think one of the things that the commission is really trying to look at is not just Davelopes and not just what happened historically, but really comprehensively what are best practices around the country so that we can create a comprehensive sort of approach to the problem of recreation, opportunities for kids, poor kids and all kids in the city, but those especially that don't have opportunities, but also safety.
Yeah, no doubt. You sound like you got a complete handle on this, so I'm bullied, but I'm bullish on and buoyed and bullish about the way hopefully this whole thing is going to go. The politicians are now swinging in the momentum of solution as opposed to cement. I know you'd like to see a municipal pool of significance, maybe indoors. That shouldn't be in lieu of.
No.
Let's get at least some of these summer pools open so in hot weather a city kid isn't discriminated against versus the kid in Barrington who can get to the ocean or a pool. And then let's get a comprehensive plan. Yes?
And you know, it's not just kids. Kids are absolutely important, but when you look at the statistics, African Americans are much more likely to drown of all ages.
Right. And that's Ray Rickman's point with swim empowerment. He wants to, in 10 years, have 30,000 new city swimmers. You know? And I think that's an achievable goal.
I think so too, but I think that it's also unfortunate that seniors don't have a place to swim, that our pools, we've tended to think only in terms of children, and while that's got to be our priority, I think that we could be doing many things with pools that could be very exciting.
All right, so by April 1, you guys make a recommendation. Will you come back after you make the recommendation and we'll
Love
work through
to.
this together?
Yeah,
All right.
help us.
Glad you're on it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. I'm relieved that we're making some progress here. We can't go through another spring and summer like this. Can't treat our kids this way. When we come back, your state of mind. Stay with us. You know, we were talking during the break with my guest about the urgency, the timetable. A report by April 1 for the pools. You got to open them up in late May or early June. Yeah, guess what, though? With the political climate, Angel Tavares doesn't want this hanging over his head, and neither does anybody else running for mayor. They'll get that done one way or the other. All right, state of mind. You can react. Call me, 228-1886. Leave a voicemail. Email me at stateofmind@myritv.com. Tweet or Facebook post. It's Dan Yorke Show, Y-O-R-K-E, on both. And here's a tweet that we thought was kind of interesting. You know, we check the social media. Kate actually works, I think, at the Leadership Institute at Bryan. She says, thank you for continuing the conversation on Job 1 leadership. Yeah, this poll and this study about how we feel about our leaders is important. I don't know what kind of answers we're getting from it, but the data is clear that we don't like what's going on. We'll see what we do to change that. See you on the radio at noon tomorrow. And, of course, MyRI TV at 7:30 tomorrow night. Good night.